I'm your host, Chelsea, and this is MidwestFright. It's Movie Monday. Heck yeah. Oh, that was weird. I hope that sounded right. Anyway, it's Movie Monday. So today we're going to be talking about a film, doing commentary. I am feeling so much better. Last week, I'm sure you guys could tell in the Autopsy of Jane Doe episode that I didn't sound like my normal self. Felt like shit. Tis the season. I came into the new year feeling like crap. So went to the doctor, got some medicine. Yay, wonderfulness. It's just allergies, thank goodness. Which is fucking weird, but because it's winter time. So yeah, this film, man, I'm just going to give a straight up warning. This is fucking weird. Sorry for all the F-bombs, Mom. I don't know if you'll want to listen to it. I know how you are. You're going to be like, oh my God, what is this, Chelsea? Like, love you. But yeah, it's different. It released on Prime digitally. It did not get a theatrical release. I don't know how to feel about it. This was my third watch. And the first time I watched it, I kind of hated it. I was like, what did I just waste my time watching? Then I watched it the second time. I was like, okay, I mean, I get it, girl power, right? Then the third time, I kind of got a little bit more in depth with it. Like, what was the meaning behind this? And that's just the kind of person I am. Like, is there an underlying message in this film? I believe so. Am I correct? No. Is this going to become a political debate? Fuck no. Okay. I am 100% going to be Switzerland, neutral. Don't drag me any shit. Okay. So the film we are going to be discussing today is Run, Sweetheart, Run from 2020. It had a $30 million budget is all I could find on IMDb. Estimated $30 million. I could not get what the revenue was because it was only released through streaming platforms. So there's not really any information regarding how much money it made. It has no need being an hour and 44 minutes. Okay. Now, granted, there's like 10 minutes of credit. Okay. With the exception. So it's an hour and a half long. But it has no need to be that long. Okay. And it's a wild ride. So buckle in. Buckle in. So this film has a 5.5 out of 10 rating on IMDb. I give it that. I think that's pretty good. So this stars Ella Balinska, who plays as Cherie. She was in the 2019 Charlie's Angels and the 2022 Netflix original Resident Evil series. I am probably one of the very few that absolutely enjoyed it. There were some scenes or some episodes where I was like, oh, this is kind of slow, or like, what the hell am I watching? But Resident Evil as a whole, I might do a series on that later on. It's so good. Check it out if you haven't. The next actor we have is Pelu Asbeck. He is Ethan. He was in Game of Thrones, Overlord, which is like a World War II type zombie film. I might cover that in the future. And then he was also in the reboot that released on HBO Max, Salem's Lot. I watched it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is it as good as the original? We're not going to get into that, okay? I am tired of all these remakes that they're doing, but it's 2025, okay? No one's coming up with anything original. I liked it. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Then we have Clark Gregg as James. He is Agent Coulson in almost all the Marvel films and the series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Then he was in The New Adventures of Old Christine. Remember that show? I forgot all about it until I was like, oh crap, yeah, that was him. Then we have Sheree Agdashlu. Hopefully I said her name right. She is a phenomenal actress. I've always loved her. She has this raspy voice. She's Iranian, so she has this kind of accent, but she is the first lady. She's been in shows like 24, The Expanse, and she's been in a few of the Star Trek films. Then we have Dio Okeni. Oh God, I just panicked. Okeni. He plays as Trey. He is Paul in the movie Fresh, which was a Hulu release. Then he was in the series, not film, sorry, C with Jason Momoa. I believe that's an Apple TV series. And then he was Thresh in the Hunger Games. He was Rue's partner in the first Hunger Games. So that was pretty cool. Whenever I watched it, I didn't really recognize him until went down the rabbit hole of IMDb. If you don't have that app, get it. It's amazing. So let's get into the film. After what seems to be an innocent date, Cherie now faces a night of terror when her date hunts her down and tries to kill her. That sounds wonderful. So we meet Cherie having a meeting with HR about something being unethical in the workplace. And this guy is kind of being a dick. He's playing it off, as we'll look into it, but basically just stay in your lane. Okay. And Cherie is a single mother who is a pre-law student working as a receptionist for a legal law firm in Los Angeles. So we get a shot of all of these secretaries and receptionists answering phones for their bosses. And we get to Cherie's desk. She's confirming a dinner reservation for her boss, James, and his wife, Judy, for that evening. Cool, great. Then she gets on a bus after work and her boss calls her. And James is yelling at her and is like, you fucked up and double booked me. The anniversary dinner and a dinner with a client at the same time. She's like, wait, are you sure? There's no telling how long she's worked for him, but she doesn't think she made the mistake, but she's going to own up to it because she's trying to get her foot in the door, right? So she tells him she'll fix it. And he's like, damn right you will. You're going to go to this client's dinner. So she's like, cool, great. She gets to her apartment and she starts getting ready. And she discovers it's that time of month. And oh, God, can you imagine? You're already stressed out. And then now Aunt Flo is in town. Come on. So her toddler, who I don't know what the short nickname is for, but it's Luz, Luze, and that's how they pronounce it. It's Luz. She is standing next to the toilet and she's the cutest little thing, but she's holding a tampon and she's like, no, I need that. Please give it to me. And she just throws it in the toilet. So it's like, ugh. So her friend shows up to babysit for her and they're talking about the guy and picking out a dress. And she tells Cherie, oh, wear this red dress. This is pre-baby. It's not too skimpy, but, it sends the right message. It's a cute red dress. Before Cherie leaves, though, her friend's like, here, take my pepper spray because no matter how cute he is still a man. So Cherie arrives at this gorgeous Spanish-style mansion where we meet Ethan, the client. He's handsome, has kind of a scruffy face, but he has a cute smile. Oh, God, I'm falling for him. We shouldn't like Ethan. Okay, we should not like him. They're both smitten over one another, and she comes in the house, and her flabbers are gasted about how beautiful this mansion looks. So he asks her, if she wants a drink, and she's like, yeah, sure, whatever you're having. He admits he can only make one, and that's a gin and tonic, but he's low on tonic. So she's like, oh, it's fine. So they're kind of chit-chatting, and then she notices there's some blood on the floor. She is leaking. So she excuses herself, and it's a mess. Okay, it's a crime scene in her pants. Sorry, we've all been there, okay? So she cleans up, and then they go to dinner. Thank God for a red dress, right? Okay, she didn't wear white. So they're talking about her career and her daughter, and he's saying all the right things. And then all of a sudden, this freaking dog almost attacks him. Like someone's going into this sushi restaurant with a freaking dog on a leash. He flips out and he's like, get your fucking dog away from me. He growls it. And so Cherie's kind of like, dude, it's okay. Hey, it's chill. And she's apologizing to the guests. I'm so sorry. And she's like, what the fuck, Well, Ethan admits he was attacked as a child by a dog and he had to get like 50 stitches. So she's kind of oh, I'm so sorry. Like, that makes sense, why you wouldn't like them. So they end up going roller skating, and it's like this crazy, weird dance thing. And you're kind of like, what am I watching? What is going on now? So they get back to his place, and she's like, I should really get back to the house. Luz wakes up at 6:30, and he's like, oh, well, here, I'll set an alarm for 6:30, so I'll wake up early too. She sees his phone, and he has an alarm already set for 5:25 a.m. And she brings that up, and he's like, must be a mess up. That's a mistake. She just brushes it off. What? No, you don't just he just said 6:30 was early, but yet has an alarm in his phone for 5:25. So they get to the door, and she's still kind of second guessing, but she's like, you know what? I deserve this. Okay. So far, he hasn't been that weird, I guess. And she heads in. Well, Ethan stops, looks directly into the camera, puts his hand up, and smiles. So it's like breaking the fourth wall. And then the door closes. We can't go any further. So the camera is panned out, right, whenever he closes the door. But then it starts going back up to the door, and we start kind of hearing grunting, panting. And if you have subtitles on, it's basically telling you what's going on. Cherie's grunting, and then all of a sudden Cherie screams, and oh my goodness. So the camera starts panning back out, and Cherie comes running out the door. She is disheveled, okay? Her makeup is smeared down her face. She has this wound on her forehead. She's been beat up. We don't know what just happened. And she's running. She's trying to get away. She's yelling for help. She sees a woman that's a neighbor kind of down the alleyway. She's upstairs, and she looks right at Cherie, and Cherie's like, please help, call 911. And she just turns her little lamp out. Just, nope, mind your business. And Cherie's like, what the fuck? And she's in disbelief. And so are we. We're like, what? Who is this person? Then we see Ethan kind of standing down an alley, just kind of like a blur, but it's him, and she just continues running. And that's why this movie has no business being an hour and 44 minutes, because a lot of it is just running. I understand the title is Run, Sweetheart, Run, but that's beside the point, okay? So she makes it to a downtown area where it's kind of populated, and she sees two girls standing in front of a movie theater, and she's like, can I please use your phone, please? And these girls are not being very helpful. I don't like them. And she's like, I need to call my babysitter, please. And I'm telling you, Cherie looks rough. Okay. Not one of these girls tries to comfort her or anything. And they're like, okay, well, what's her number? And she's like, I don't know it. It's in my phone, but he has my phone. And she's like, you don't know her number? Bitch, whose number do you know? Okay. I know my parents' number. I know one of my sister's numbers. The other two, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I got to look at my phone. What? Okay. And so Cherie's kind of like, can you just call 911 then, please? I need fucking help. So she does. And I guess they're asking her, does she seem intoxicated, or does she seem like she's on drugs? And the girl's like, I think she might be. So you're like, oh, come on, you bitch. Right? So the police arrive, and they're just being dicks. Okay. And they're asking her, well, how much do you have to drink? Where were you? And she's like, what the fuck? I was attacked. I had maybe one or two drinks, please. So they book her for public intoxication. And she's trying to get them to call the babysitter, and he's like, oh, did you leave the number with the lady at the front desk? And she's like, well, no, but I gave her the address and stuff. And he's like, oh, they'll look into it. So they're just brushing this off as just, this is a drunk girl, who just had a rough night. Screw them. Okay. Well, she gets put in a cell with a woman seemingly who is a prostitute. She kind of is wearing some fishnets. I'm not just assuming. Okay. It seems to be that way. All right. If you watch the movie, you'll get the same concept. Okay. Anyway. And she's like, oh, like, what are you in for? And she's just tired, dude. You can tell she's just stressed out. She's traumatized. And finally, she's talking to her and she tells her, it was some guy. It was a meeting, kind of turned into a date. And, he hurt her. And she's like, oh, well, just fuck him. And she's like, yeah, his gin and tonic wasn't that good anyway. And the woman's like, what? What did you just say? And she's like, well, the gin and tonic was pretty bad. And the woman goes, did he say that was the only drink he knew how to make? She's like, yeah. She's like, is he white with blue eyes? She's like, how do you know that? And all of a sudden she gets up. She's like, I'm sorry for about to do this. And all of a sudden she's like, let me the fuck out of this cell. She's trying to kill me. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, what? And she's like, you need to hide. She was like, you're marked, lady. And it's like, what the fuck do you mean I'm marked? What? And she's like, that's exactly the same shit my best friend told me before she went missing. Then she was found dead on some street. I forgot what street they said. And Cherie is like, oh my God, like, what the fuck do you mean? And this lady is like screaming. She's like, let me the fuck out of here. She's trying to kill me. And holy fuck, dude. So Cherie's left by herself in the cell. She's tired. She's exhausted. Then all of a sudden, one of the officers is like, hey, you got a visitor. And she's like, I don't want a visitor. Like, what, who? And it's Ethan. And Cherie's like, no, that's him. That's the guy. He's the one that did this. Ethan's buddy with this guy. And he's like, hey, thanks, man. And it's like, oh, you piece of shit. You piece of shit, man. He's like, he comes in and he looks nonchalant, okay? And she is freaking out. And then all of a sudden he just screams, sit down. And it's this loud growl. And it's like, oh my God. And so she sits down, because what else is she going to do? And he sits next to her and he's like, you're not who I thought you were. You're different. And she's like, I'm sorry, like, just let me go. Like, I won't tell anyone. I won't even tell James. Like, this will be our secret, whatever. And he's like, no, we're gonna play a game. She's like, I don't want to play a game with you. Like, I just want to go home. Like, I won't say anything. He's like, we're going to play a game and I'll give you a head start. If you survive the night, I'll let you go. And she is freaking out. I don't blame her at all because she was just having a normal Tuesday or whatever day it is. And then this shit fucking happens. So she gets released, and whenever she's leaving the police station, it's nighttime still. And there's like flyers throughout the movie of missing women, and they're written on them like, I matter and do you even care? And the bottom, it'll say First Lady with a phone number. Well, she finally picks one up that's like on the street ground or on the ground on the street. And she's like, what is this? So she just continues walking, and she's like, I'm assuming is like Skid Row. There's a lot of homeless people, and some of these like shadowy figures are kind of freaking her out. She's paranoid. She gets into a taxi and she tells them like, hey, I don't have any money. Like, please take me to this address. This guy seems like a gentle giant. And he's like, okay. He's like, I've seen many women like you. She's like, what do you mean like me? He's like, that look how you look right now, that look scared. And she's like, what happened to him? And he doesn't say anything, but you can tell he looks sad. So they must have died or went missing. So they show up to this place and he's like, is this your home? And she's like, no, it's my boss's. And he's like, good. So she gets out and it's James's apartment. And he has this beautiful penthouse. Okay. It's gorgeous. And it seems like him and his wife were just about to go to bed. And he's like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, what happened? I'm so sorry. And he seems very doting, you know, like he's checking in on her and stuff. And she's like, James did this to me. And he's like, what? This is so out of his character. And she's like, well, what is his character? And he's like, I'm calling him. And she's like, no, don't call him. And he's like, oh, I'm going to call the police then. And she's like, dude, they're not going to do anything. So he's like, okay, I'm going to get you a change of clothes. And she's like, well, can I shower, please? And his wife's making tea and she keeps looking over at them and he's kind of being a little bit of a dick. He's like, can we get the tea now? You know, like what's taking you so long? And you're like, what is going on? Well, after she gets out of the shower, they give her like this white long sleeve nightgown thing. It's hideous, but anything's better than what she was just wearing. And she goes into his office and she pulls up his emails and she's checking the calendar. She wants to see, did she mess up and double book him? And she sees Ethan, dinner date / Cherie. So she's like, what the fuck? So in the search bar, she types Ethan, dinner date / and searches. And there is so many pop-ups for that calendar. Like, for the different days of the month. And she realizes James is in on it. James, you piece of shit. All of a sudden his wife comes in and she's like, hey, so I need to tell you something. And Cherie's like, I just want to go. And she's like, you have a powerful scent. He can smell your blood. And it's like, ew, really? Like, and I'm on my fucking period and he can, gross. So all of a sudden James walks in and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I was just giving Cherie, you know, some more clothes. And Cherie's like, I'm going to go now. And he's like, no, like you can stay here. Like you can crash. Like this has always been a safe place. Trust me. And I love the film because like a couple of different times it'll do like text and it says run in big bold letters and she books it out of there and he chases after her like, no, like don't leave. So she gets on this public bus and sweet lady, you know, she's like, what do you need? Like, do you need him to call the police? And she's like, no, can I use your phone? She's like, yes, come up here. So she calls Trey, her ex-boyfriend. They bring him up a couple of times, you know, and apparently they split up and they're like, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So she gets dropped off at this gas station and she goes to buy some tampons, but she doesn't have any money. So she gives him her watch and she's like, hey, you can probably pawn this tomorrow for like $50. He's like, oh, okay, there you go. Gives her the key. He's like, the bathroom's out back, which fuck that shit, man. Like, I've never been to Los Angeles, but if you got to like walk out of the store and then walk around to go to the bathroom. Anyway, someone's banging on the door and she's like, hi, it's occupied. Well, then she noticed that there's some blood in the floor. So she like quickly tries to clean it up and the person stops banging. So she gets out and Ethan's right behind the door. Of course he is. Scares the shit out of her. He's like, you just make this too easy. So he drags her across over to this dumpster. And it's like, come on, dude. Like, you already beat the shit out of me. I'm on my fucking period. Like, just let me go. And Ethan pans the camera up to him, smiles, moves the camera away to where the audience, us, we're looking at this homeless lady. And you just hear like him beating the shit out of Cherie and this lady's like flinching each time. And it's like, come on, dude. Then all of a sudden you hear a gunshot and it's the convenience store clerk. He's like, hey, leave her alone. He's got this shotgun. Just shoot him. Okay. Ethan's like, you better get out of here. Well, the guy listens and he runs and hides. And it's like, oh, come on, man. Well, Cherie grabbed a brick and smacks Ethan in the face. So it's his point of view. He's laying in the ground and he just sees her drop the brick and run. Well, Trey's there. She gets in the car. And it's such a weird interaction because he's like, oh, what the hell happened to you? You know, he's kind of laughing. And she's like, I got into a fight. We need to go now. He's like, what? Like, no. So they get on the road and he's like, have you been drinking? Like, you don't get in fights. And she's like, look, I was attacked. Okay. And so he's like, all right, give me a name, give me an address. She's like, no, that's why I didn't want to tell you what happened to me, And it's like, oh my God. And he's like, look, Dina's there at the house. I think it's Dina. And she's like, well, great. Dina was her best friend who ended up fucking Trey after they split up. But apparently Cherie broke up with Trey, so it's okay. I don't know. Just girl code, friend code. So they show up and Trey's like, hey, look, let me go warn her that you're here. And she's like, well, I'm not scared of her. And he's like, no, but I am. So he goes in and she comes out of the house and she's about to like beat the shit out of Cherie until she sees what kind of condition she's in. Okay. She's in rough shape and she's like, oh my God, like who fucking did that to you? So they hug and she's like, I got you, like we're going to put our shit aside. You need to be taken care of. Girl power, right? So she goes inside and they're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, the 1971. So there's a couple of friends in there. I think there's like 4 or 5 other people there. And I assume is Trey's little brother, Norlin. So Cherie goes upstairs. She gets a shower. She gets cleaned up again. And Trey's like, hey, got a hold of the babysitter. She couldn't stay long, but they have someone else there at the house that she trusts. So she's like, okay, thanks. And she's like, hey, I really need some tampons. So Trey's like, sure, I'll go get some for you. All of a sudden, Trey's gone. They're all in the house. Someone's knocking at the door. So Dina's like, who the fuck is that? And she realizes like, oh, it's you. So all of these people, all of these friends get like swords and she has a shotgun. Man, this is me. Okay. These are my friends. All right. They're standing at the door. They're ready to fight and beat the shit out of this dude. And they're like, all right, come in, motherfucker. And all we see is Cherie upstairs with Norlin. They're hiding. And you hear like gunfire and slicing and screams. It's like, oh my God. So Cherie comes downstairs and there's like feathers from pillows flying in the air and all of the people are dead. And it's just like, holy crap, dude. The living room is a mess. Ethan's standing there at like this record player and he's playing this song and he's like, come on, come dance with me. And she's like, oh my God, like, no. So she goes to leave with Ethan and Trey shows up and Trey sees them on the porch and he's like, is this him? And right as soon as Trey's about to say something, all of a sudden you hear like this, roar, and Ethan like bites his head off. Literally, his head is gone. And dude, like everyone has died. And you're like, what the fuck am I watching? What? So her and Ethan are on their merry way whenever all of a sudden he gets hit by a car. So she's like, oh fuck, this is my chance, like I can get away. Well, she remembers Judy, James's wife, saying that she has a strong scent and he can smell her blood. So she takes her tampon out and throws it in the bed of a truck that's traveling because they're on like this sidewalk bridge thing. So she hides real quick. And whenever Ethan comes to finally and he pops his bones back into place, he kind of looks over and he goes towards where the truck's headed. So she's like, oh, fuck yeah, I got out. So Cherie looks out in the distance and she sees a church. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot because obviously this guy is not human. Okay. So she runs into this church and the priest, the father, whatever you want to call him, is being kind of weird. She's like, I need help. He's after me and, just she just wants some guidance. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, you're not alone, like he's here with you. And just a cringy moment. Well, all of a sudden the priest gets got. Okay. He's laying down behind a pew and she sees Ethan. She throws holy water on him and he freaks out, but he's just joking. Okay. She asks him, what are you? And he's like, I'm why you're nothing, why you will always be nothing, because people believe in me. And she goes, I don't believe in you. And that's when it pops off. You don't get to see it, which makes me mad. But then it also leaves room for interpretation when we get to the end of this. I may bring it up before because you don't know what the fuck he is. But you hear like he's transforming into this beast, you assume, because the look on her face is she's horrified. She's like, oh my God, and she's crying. It's like unreal.
Sit down. You're going to love this.
And all of a sudden, I guess he turns back to his normal self. And then the priest is not dead. He comes up, stabs him through the chest, gives her a lighter, and is like, go through this little opening. So she runs and gets out. I know I'm going super fast through this, but she runs through this little opening and it winds up being like underneath the city. But there's then another stairwell that goes up to this nightclub, I guess. And it's like this underground club. She goes into this bathroom. She's trying to get cleaned up and she finds some cleaning supplies. And again, she remembers he tracks her by her blood. So she gets these like bleach wipes and she's like, oh God, it hurts. She like wipes her wound on her forehead with it. Her arms, her shoulder, it hurts. And then she is like, one more spot. Oh God, no. And she wipes the area. Okay. The no square. Oh God. And she screams, obviously. But then she's like, you can tell she's trying to get in like her badass mode because she like rips this piece of cloth off, puts it around her head, like to cover up the wound. And then she like steals someone's jacket, which is like it looks like a military commando type bedazzled jacket. She goes out. Well, she has a flyer with her, the flyer with one of the missing ladies, and it has that first lady phone number on it. She steals someone's purse, gets their cell phone, and she's like, hey, first lady, I need help. So they tell her where to go, and she goes to leave, and this group of guys, they're being dickheads, and they're like, oh, like, where you get that uniform from? And he's like, I don't remember seeing you in Afghanistan. And she's like, it's because I wasn't. Like, it's not my jacket. And he's like, well, maybe you should take it off. Like, he's just being a jerk, okay? Then all of a sudden these girls come up and she's like, hey, she's like, my brother's outside waiting on us. Like, come on, let's go. Because she saw a girl in need. Okay. Which that's the way those other two girls should have been with the cell phone earlier. Instead of being like, you don't know your babysitter's number. Oh, so anyway, these young girls, they're like, hey, come on, like, let's go. And she's like, oh, thanks. So they all get in the car and they're just young girls celebrating, having a night out. And they're like, oh, you should go surfing with us in the morning. We're going at like 5:20, before the douchebags get there, like right before the sun rises. She's like, wait, what time did you say? She's like, yeah, like 5:20, 5:25-ish. And she's like, holy shit. And she realizes that's when the sun rises, is at 5:25. And she remembers he had an alarm in his phone for 5:25. So all of a sudden, something hits their vehicle and they get into a car crash. And it's Ethan. And the vehicle's upside down. All the other poor girls are dead. And Cherie's like crying, and he's like, I'm impressed. You know, you've made it this far. He goes to drag her out. And all of a sudden, this badass American bully pit bull shows up. And he's like, go away, you know, because remember, he doesn't like dogs. And this dog's like, you know, standing its ground. And I think it's a girl dog, because I think later on we find out it's a girl dog. Anyway, and she's gorgeous, but she's like, you get the fuck on. You go away. So he yells at the dog again, and then all of a sudden the dog like barks and he vanishes, like just poof. And she's like, holy shit, like, where did you come from? And this dog comes up to her and is like licking its face. And it's like, oh, you know, now she has a little guardian. So she makes it to the Century Spa, which is where she was told to go. And whenever she walks in, there's a little lady at like the reception desk, and she's like, hi, I'm here to meet the first lady. And she's like, oh yeah, she's in. Just go through this door. And this is our wonderful Shreya, who is just gorgeous. She's in this beautiful pantsuit, and she's like, hello, been waiting on you. What's up, girl? And she's telling her about charcoal, how it has like these properties to eliminate smells. And what they do is that they'll take your blood and dump it into the sewer lines, like the drain lines. That way it goes around the whole city. So he'll smell her on every corner, basically to kind of hide them in a way. So she's like, I have a plan and I need your help. She's like, no, I came to you for protection. What do you need? What do you mean you need my help? And it's like, yeah, like what the fuck is going on here? Well, basically, First Lady is telling her, you know, that Adam and Eve weren't the first. You know, she's like an angel, apparently, is the way that you kind of understand it. And she's like, okay, so does that make Ethan like a demon? And she's like, no, he's a dick.
But now, the balance of power has shifted, and he's getting desperate. Ruthless. It's time for us to end this shit stain on society.
So, what are you, like an angel or something?
The first one.
What does that make Ethan? Like a
Dick. A dick.
I mean, I was just gonna go for demon, but
A demon is just a corrupted angel. But forget about it.
Swear to God, she says it. She goes, nope, he's a dick. So it's like, you don't know if Ethan's a demon, the devil, or if he's a vampire. No fucking clue. And so she has this plan. You don't get to hear about it, but you see like this blueprint and there's like a carousel. So basically Cherie gets dressed. They tend to her wounds. She puts on this like gi, this taekwondo or jujitsu type gi. And she's like a badass. She's driving the car, like this Corvette, and she's got the dog in the passenger seat. And she gets to this location and she's like spray painting on the walls and she's laying these rocks down. And then she starts like opening her wounds up to like start bleeding to get her smell going, I guess. It's gross. And then she like sticks her hand to get her tampon out and anyway, so don't ask me, I don't know why, but yeah, that's just part of this movie. And she's like, you know, where are you? Like, come on, show up. And Ethan shows up. He sure does. He's invisible and he beats the shit out of her. And he's like, so I guess she told you my weakness. And he's like, you know, at least there's one thing they got right. So he beats the shit out of her and she comes to and she is nailed. Like her hands are like nailed together. And yeah, he's just like, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to raise your daughter like she's my own and blah, blah, blah. And of course, it's like fueling her fire. She's like, I don't even fucking know you. You've put my life through hell in this one night. It hasn't even been like 24 hours, dude. So she's like, I'm going to talk him out of this. Cherie tells him, like, I'll be yours. I'm yours. Like, just let me go. Like, I give up. Okay, you've got me. And he's like, oh, okay, wonderful. Great. Love that. So he takes her down and he's, I don't know if he's going to bite her or what, but he's like, yeah, you're going to know that you gave yourself to me willingly. And you just get the ick, like the ugh. Well, all of a sudden she has a rock in her hand. And he's like, what is this? Like, what? You have a rock? What is that going to do? Well, she throws the rock out a window and the sunlight comes in because the alarm's going off that it's 5:25. And as soon as sunlight hits him, he freaks out and he's like, oh my God. And she's like, he's like, oh, you thought you got me, just that one rock. And then all of a sudden, like, more rocks get thrown at windows, sunlight's coming in. And it's women from that spa place, who are a part of this cult thing. And they're all standing there like, we got your back. And yeah, so he starts oozing like this black stuff out of his face and his eyes and his ears. And the scene cuts to Cherie and she moves the camera down to look at her. Okay, so now she's breaking the fourth wall. And then she has the camera look down at the ground. And you see like a trail of this like black goo stuff. And it's leading to Ethan crawling. And, she's like, how sad that like sunlight is your weakness. And, you're so weak and blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, yeah, look at, here's my friend here. And points to the first lady and she lights a Zippo lighter and throws it onto the black goo. And it's like it's gasoline or oil or something. Cause then all of a sudden he goes a busting of flames and he's screaming and that's that. Ethan's gone. Then we cut to Cherie. She makes her way home and that friend, she's sleeping on the couch and she goes into Luz's room and she's awake and she holds her daughter. In the end. And man, I don't know what the fuck we just went through. Okay. I know I kind of sped past it the last few minutes, but that's pretty much the movie. Okay. It's a lot, but you don't know if Ethan's a demon. Is he a vampire? The first lady basically says like she was sent down here. Ethan was sent down here to help guide humanity. So was he an angel? Was he a demon? You don't know because you don't see him and I don't know. So give it a watch. Let's talk about it. Send me an email or even like comment. I don't know. It's not very graphic. Okay. Like I think you literally only see a tampon like one time, but like not even really like in depth. Okay. It's just implied, but it's just gross. Okay. Not the whole entire tampon thing. It's just, I don't understand what we just watched. So IMDb has it as a 5.5 out of 10. I mean, I'm going to rate it as well. I give it a 5 out of 10 because I like it. I hate it. I don't know. So what I mean by this may have like a deeper in-depth meaning is that the officers didn't believe her, or one, they were paid off by Ethan, but like they played it off as she was just a drunk lady. They're in LA and I get it. Like the other two girls, you can't really trust anybody. They didn't know because trafficking, right? But still, at least like don't give her an attitude that she didn't know her babysitter's phone number. Okay. And then you've got going into the jail cell with the lady who was like, oh my God, like you need to hide. And it's like, bitch, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. Okay. But then you have the HR people who are like, stay in your lane. And then her boss, James. It's like, it's all about men and power. Okay. Like, Ethan was there to help humanity, but he ended up just helping men stay in control and be powerful, and wanted to put women like Cherie in their place. Essentially, like women who were strong and who didn't take any shit. Like, that's what he wanted to stay there for, I guess. That's the way that I took the movie as. If you have something different, let me know. Let's talk about it. Because I'm confused as fuck. And there's not many people that talk about this film because they didn't like it. It was weird. It was different. I've seen worse. I have watched way worse than that. Oculus, that movie, garbage. Straight trash. People rave it still, and I don't know why. So anyway, that was Run, Sweetheart Run from 2020. Good old COVID days. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did not, don't worry. Neither did I. But give it a watch. It's on Amazon Prime. So if you got that, it's free. Yeah. And see you guys Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at MidwestFright Podcast or follow me on Spotify. Leave me any comments, reviews. You can also send me your request at MidwestFrightPodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Talk to you soon. Bye.